Forspoken, Forspoken, Forspoken. Man, what can I say about Forspoken that hasn't already been said? This game was a heaping mess when it first came out with an amazing combat system. But let's see what the latest patch has done for it. Let's see if it's worth your time. I found it on sale for $29.99. Guys, this is Thrifty with Thrifty PS Gamer Reviews. I buy games on sale, tell you if you should spend your money on them, give you some highlights from the games, and just let you know my overall thoughts. Generally speaking, these are initial reviews, like first thoughts. This one I have about 25, 30 hours in, so it's going to be a bit more educated and informed than just a first thoughts video. I have not beaten the game yet because I have ADHD. Let's get into it. Graphics. So this is the thing that the game got hammered for when it first came out. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to play it either. It didn't look that good. The combat was amazing because it's a Square Enix product, but just everything else looked like PS3 graphics. And so I got it. I got it on sale. Like I said, spent 30 bucks for it. And my goodness, when Frey is in New York, it still looks god awful terrible. Okay? Not even gonna lie, it's a rough game in the first 10 minutes that you're in New York. After you leave New York and get sucked into the portal to go to Athia, everything changes. The lighting changes, the scenes change, the color palette almost changes. Like everything changes once you get to Athia. Shadows change. Everything looks good in Athia. There's the big first section that you're going to be in right before you go up and face the first kind of big boss is a you face it kind of at, or you can face it kind of at like dusk. And I'll be honest, when the sunlight is hitting the back of the buildings and then shining kind of around it, oh my goodness, everything looks awesome. Lots of heavy dark shadows. The lighting is, the spots that are supposed to be lit are lit, and they're lit well. It is leap years ahead of what it was when it first released. So much so that when I bought it, I didn't know it had a patch already with it. So I was expecting, you know what, give me good combat, give me a Square Enix story, and let me dive in. And what I got was something that was already patched, and I didn't know what everybody was talking about because I didn't know that it had been patched. It took me going to Twitter, excuse me. It took me going to Twitter and finding out, oh, hey, this thing had a ton of work done on it. And it is good. It is a good quality title now. Because let's get into story. The story is you're this girl named Frey who keeps getting in trouble. She's homeless. She lives in kind of an abandoned apartment with her cat. And she goes to her, she gets out of jail, or avoids jail rather, and then goes, and as she's walking, she gets in some trouble with some people who are out to get her. And then she sees this cuff through a window. She goes, she grabs the cuff, stealing, and then gets transported to Athia. When she arrives there, she finds out that a lot of bad is happening in this world, that there is something taking over it. The corruption, I believe, is what it's called. And if you get infected with the corruption, you're done. And so, like, you start off, and this is your overarching theme. Holy crap, I'm here. How do I get back? I have this magic cuff that's now attached to me. And the cuff is sentient, so it has its own voice, it has its own story, backstory, all that, and you get to explore that with the cuff. Now, let's talk about dialogue. Oh, real quick on story. You're going to be facing off against different Tantas who are kind of the rulers of this land, and each one gives you a different magic. So I'm at the point right now where I have Earth, which is what you start with, and Fire. My goodness, it's a freaking blast, and I absolutely love it. And it is kind of a go kill those three things and save the world type deal, but it's done in a way that's super fun. And so I think even though the story is kind of the age old, like I said, go kill a few things and get back out and then you're done, that's kind of where I'm at with that. And it's okay. It's not bad. It's a good story. And let's get into dialogue and voice work. So, voice work, they made the lead character Frey cuss way too much. The character's just not good at it. Like, you've heard people cuss before, and you're like, you know what? You really suck at that. You probably shouldn't say that. Like, you're not good at this. And that's what it feels like. It feels all of the language in the game feels very forced outside of a few things. Like early on in the game, um, when it's revealed that one of the Tauntauns really doesn't like you, that somebody who Frey kind of bonded with when she first got to Athia dies. And the cussing there feels normal. It feels appropriate. A lot of other places, it just doesn't. Like, I'm not even so concerned about the banter back and forth between her and Cuff because I think Cuff is hilarious and calls her on her bullcrap pretty regularly. And that's what I like about it. It's really fun in that regard. But when it's her in battle or her in a story moment or her even just getting a quest, it's very off-putting sometimes. So I wish instead of being able to change the frequency of like Cuff's interactions with her, that I could limit the amount of language that they try to force her to use because it's just not good. Outside of that, though, the voice work comes through clear. It comes through well. It's very well done. Whoever voices Cuff, I love his voice, and so it's really well done in those areas. But the language on it is just rough. The story aspect, though, combined with it, it's they didn't have to add so much language, right? But they did. They went shock value, and it's just not good when it comes to that. The voice actors themselves, I think, are great. Cuff is my favorite voice in the entire game so far. And that's just my thoughts on that. Let's get into combat because combat is the place where this game shines. Combat is epically fun. You're going to see in the clips that I've gotten from the gameplay several areas of combat. And I wanted to do that on purpose because I wanted to highlight what this does very well. And it is the combat. It's extremely fast, fluid. There's so much stuff you can do. There's different ways that you can use your parkour abilities. There's different ways that you can level up yourself. There's different main magic attacks that you have, along with different support magics. Support magic range from buffs, debuffs, infections. There's one where like you shoot a seed at somebody and that seed like spreads within them and like dwindles down their life a little bit. So like there's stuff like that. There's strangleholds that you can not strangleholds, but like you can summon vines up from the ground and it latches people in place. So if you have an enemy that like always blocks, you can trap them and then just go to town on them. The uh, the parkouring is part of the gameplay, but it's also part of the combat. Like you get extra points for doing parkour along with casting magic and doing your abilities. So very well done in that. Very awesome. I've always said Square Enix has the best particle effects of any publisher, any developer, hands down, maybe next to Platinum Games or on the same level. I think Platinum Games does extremely well, and then Housemarque with Returnal, awesome. Bullet Hells do really well with it, but I think Square Enix still gets the edge because their particle effects just look amazing. Gameplay is a open world action RPG. And by that I mean there is a loop. You grab quest, do quest, find things along the way. There's a ton of stuff to explore in the world, and I mean a ton. There's a huge map, there's chests everywhere, and it never felt to me like the game is forcing me to explore. If you explore, you get cool stuff. But if you don't want to explore, that's up to you. And so I really like the way they did that, but I also like that they didn't put stuff too spread out, right? And I know some people who might have played the game are like, man, what do you mean the first section? Takes you forever. I get that, but that's also getting you familiar with the exploration, with the parkour, with how to use your abilities. So they want you to take your time in that first little area. And then the area afterwards, kind of everything opens up and you can just run straight to your next objective. Or you can do what I did and take 20 hours to complete the first section. And you find your chest, you find all your skill points, so you can upgrade using the skill gems and all of that. And it's so well done. And I felt like I was constantly upgrading, constantly getting new magic abilities, constantly upgrading my magic abilities, because there's an upgrade system where after you earn the skill, you can like increase and level up that specific skill. And so I really love the way that they did that in this game. And so that's kind of my review of it. That's kind of my overarching thought on it. I think it does a lot well. I think it got heavily criticized for good reason when it first came out. But $30 and below is a perfect price point for this video. And I mean, absolutely stellar. It is the best price point that I'm going to recommend for this video game, because I think at that price, you'll be getting your money's worth. You'll actually enjoy it. Forget what the naysayers said. I'm going to give this game a, I would say, probably a 7. I think 7 out of 10 is good for it. I think before the patch, if I reviewed the copy when it had PS3 lighting and graphics and textures, I probably would have given it a 6, because the combat is still epic. The frame rate is amazing. I play on a 4K TV with 120 VRR, so like I do have a little bit of a more beefier than normal setup. But I think you'll really love this game. If you could, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I do videos on games that I find on sale. And guys, I would love to hear what games you're playing, what games you found on sale. So hit me up in the comments. I always try to respond. And as always, stay thrifty.